Cornel West is now running as an independent. Now, I really haven't been too focused on this stuff, fam. You'll probably know better than I do. RFK Jr. did announce he was going to go independent as well,
He
but he
didn't announce
hasn't
independent.
announced.
He's going to
He
announce
did.
on
He's going
Monday.
to announce.
But we're hoping that he could
Right.
still join the Libertarian Party, some of us.
But the rumors are that he is going to announce on Monday. Okay. That's what everybody's been saying, acting like he said it. He actually hasn't officially said it. But I don't, I mean, anyway, I'm not going to get into the whole libertarian thing, but because that'll be a
Okay.
whole other show. I just don't
Let
think,
me
I don't
say
even
this
think
thing.
that would
Yeah.
be a good
But
idea either.
we're talking about simply just ballot access, right? And I said so many resources shouldn't be wasted for RFK running as an independent because he's got to get on the ballot in every state, and every state is different, and there are some rules that are just ridiculous. I don't know. I have to go back and check and see if the rules have changed. Georgia was one of those states where it was ridiculous. As a congressional member of a district, you had to get like 15% of the signatures of the registered voters, and they were matching that as president, but then they reduced those rules and they've changed them. So I don't even know what they are, but I know that it is going to take a lot of resources to get people on the ballot. Not to just mention, we've done shows before where they can just say, I don't want to say unvalidate, but they can say that your signatures are invalid and throw it away. And they'll do that like a day before they're due, so that you have no time to go back and change those things. They've done that in Michigan. They did that in Guatemala, right? And they were directed by the State Department because that's a trick that they play in the United States. It's another form of election rigging, is making sure that people can't get on the ballot itself. However, if in fact he goes as independent, fam, his campaign has been growing. When he started, just for a good measure, when he started, he had like 1.8 or 1.9 million followers on Twitter. Now he's at like 2.4, 2.5. This guy over here does not have the manpower to get on the ballot in all 50 states as an independent. It's not going to happen. Cornel West is boxed himself into a small echo chamber. He proved that the other night with his speech, and he's not even mentioning that he's running for president. I asked Jamie, who went to the event, fam, did you get a Cornel West for president or a shirt? No, it's not. He's not even mentioning it. Is this guy even running for fucking president? And some of the shit that he says, no, it's you're like stuck in your own echo chamber. I'm sorry. You go ahead, fam.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either candidate is actually a good candidate for different reasons. I think Cornel is definitely, as you said, stuck in an echo chamber. I think RFK isn't really looking at the ballot access stuff. I don't think either of them are looking at that. I mean, it's just impossible to win in a rigged election system. But I do think that RFK appeals to a wider, broad range of people compared to Cornel West. Cornel West
Can I ask you a
appeals to
question?
a certain leftist contingent.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, though. I know you don't like any candidates out there, but wouldn't you agree that RFK is still the best candidate out there?
No, because he is a Zionist, and I can't agree on that. I can't.
He's the best
I
candidate.
can't. I can't.
The
No,
best
not to me.
out of what we have.
He's the best. He was the best Democratic candidate running, and now if he's not going to run as a Democrat, I think he has a bigger chance than Cornel West to win. I don't like saying best because best implies that I think this person is going to do a good job as president, and
Who is the least
I don't think
shitty?
either of them.
Who's the
Why?
least
But this
shittiest
is like
candidate out there?
lesser of evilism again. This is the same thing we've been doing forever.
Who do we get
No, you're not
some
going to get
positive
me to
gains
say.
from?
You're not going to get me to say I think RFK Jr.
Gun
is
to your
the best.
head,
You're not going to get me to
fam.
say that. You're not going to
Gun
get
to
me
your
to say
head.
that. I do think he no. I mean, I'm not voting. I think he appeals to a broader range of people. I think his campaign is very America first. For because it really throws everybody like Palestinians under the bus. He does the whole Ukraine. We shouldn't give money to Ukraine, but Putin is still blah blah blah. So he's really like going for that whole like we're gonna get these votes from Republicans, we're gonna get these votes from the the alternative left that isn't that's anti-mandate, that's pretty much left like the Bernie contingent. So I think he appeals to a wide range of people, but I just I can't say he's like the best candidate. Um, for you, for some people, he might be the best candidate, but not for me. I do think he's a stronger candidate than Cornel. So Cornel said that he's running, right?
Wait, but
As
look,
an independent.
hold
But
on.
wait.
Look
But
what it said.
I want to watch his thing.
We will, but I just want to point this up for China.
Why are you promoting? Like, why do you have to promote
Just want
him?
to
Like
say, just want to
another
say.
phony.
Go ahead. Just want to say.
Yeah, but he has done other videos where he's literally using the same anti-China arguments as before, and the whole border bullshit. Like, I mean, it's just countless and countless things. Okay, but I want to watch this video because I want to see
All
what he
right.
says because I think this is see, you're so anti-Cornell. It's just like there are people who are so pro Cornell that it's just, journalists or commentators, and it's just like nauseating to see that because I feel like there's bias, and I feel that same way about both camps that are pushing Cornell and pushing RFK. It's the same to me. It's just
I
cringy
just
on
think
both
that
ends.
I just think he's not being a serious candidate. You know what I'm saying? And Cornel West is disappointing. I was hoping that he was going to come out of the gate swinging, and I like the fact that he had a populist message and he was willing to go talk to both sides and bring some stuff to the table. But he hasn't. He's just gone directly into his own little echo chamber.
Yeah.
To get the Chuck Modis and all that stuff. Where Kennedy, I think, has had a broad appeal. And listen, I'm just excited about talking about things when it comes to foreign policy that we wouldn't get on the table if these guys weren't running in the first place. But like I said, to me, it's all about the discussions out there. It's all about the political discourse. What we don't have. We have a comatose society, fam, and you know that. You know how Americans are. So I do get excited when we push the limits on political discourse in this country because I want it more than anything. And just like from when we started this show, and just like now, I'm a foreign policy guy. I'm so excited to hear about what you did in Iran. We've talked about Iran before. We remember when we started the show, we talked about Ukraine. So I am excited for the conversations. And unfortunately, these conversations only come around during election season every 4 years. And we're here now. So that's why it's not so much a bias. It's more of an excitement, And don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things I don't say about RFK, in which I want to say, because I don't want to tip my hat for when I get my interview, and I will get my interview because I was told, we were kind of starting working our way there to setting that up, and I'm going to push him on those issues that we know to push him on. I will give you a secret. One thing I will let out when people talk about the Israeli thing, I'm not going to talk so much about Israel. I'm going to talk about Iran because that is going to be a domino effect. And I know this is something that we have talked about before, fam. If you're going to put your nose up the tuchus of the Israeli lobbyist ass, well, what does that mean about your foreign policy when it comes to Iran? That's important. So
What do you
I won't
mean? What
tip
does
my
it
hat over
mean?
there, but what's that?
It's very obvious what it means. It means he's still going to have the interventionist regime change foreign policy absolutely on Iran. Absolutely. It is more about Iran because Iran is the nuclear power.
Yeah.
And he has already spoken negatively about Iran. So, I mean, this is exactly, I mean, the whole thing is anti-imperialism is not, we're just going to allow some of it here and some of it there. No, like it's all. And so again, this is why I don't think either of them is a good candidate because Cornell, for one, is really pushing the same tired arguments that Bernie was pushing a few years ago. He really hasn't really developed much past that at all whatsoever. And RFK is still trying to really go the route where, he's sort of like, well, Iran bad, this bad, blah blah blah, but we need to like start. And I think it's good that he's saying we need to, stop the funding to Ukraine, but a lot of Republicans are saying that. But then they'll turn around and support funding to Taiwan against China. So I don't buy what people say as much, especially when they're running a campaign. So let's hear what Cornell says, and
Let's go
then
full screen
we'll
on it so I can fill up my
chat.
coffee too.
We need you to be part and parcel of wrestling with this corporate duopoly, this two-party system that impedes, it gets in the way of the unleashing of the kind of policies of abolishing poverty and homelessness, of dealing with working wages, cutting back on militarism, and most importantly, trying to ensure that the best of who we are as a people can be more manifest, can be more concrete, because the crisis is real and these catastrophes are bombarding us. Please come join us.
Fam, do you have
Yes,
your
we
window
need
open?
you to be.
Fam, to check, make sure you don't have another window open. It was another echo again, Cheese. All right.
I'm going to drop out and come back in. So hopefully
you're going to drop out and come back. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm getting feedback here.
Okay, let's do that. All right, fam.
Okay.
Let me get back over there.
So
Your thoughts?
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand how you go from People's Party to Green Party to then running independent. What is going on? What exactly is the deal behind this? You know, like how do you then hire Peter Dow?
Yeah.
Who, I mean, it's not even that he didn't have this, you know, if you can believe that Peter Dow had this coming to Jesus moment where he, you know, left the Clinton machine and became like a real and saw the light, you know, and I think for some at some point a lot of people did believe that. I mean, I was even just watching him. I was, you know, like applauding him when he was doing something well. But then when it came to the Russia thing, this conflict in Ukraine, and when it came to several other conflicts, he once again just went back to the same type of status quo mentality on foreign policy. This is somebody that I wouldn't have on a team. If I was running for president, I can tell you real quick that I have 0 people from the DC Beltway. But the excuse is, well, these people know how to run a campaign, right? That's the excuse, is that they know how to run a campaign. And I think that's just BS, because it's like, okay, what do you mean they know how to run a campaign? What do you mean? That, like, okay, so they know how to run a campaign the way the establishment has ran a campaign. But does that mean that they know how to do something different, something that is necessary in this moment to actually change things and not do the same tired old thing that has been done before? The answer is no, because if you keep hiring from the same beltway, the same corrupt, you know, core, you're going to get the same corrupt results. And I saw this with the Bernie campaign, especially the second time when they put in the same people like Jeff Weaver. And a lot of us were saying, why are you putting in these people? Blah, blah, blah. We knew the campaign was tarnished from the beginning and people didn't want to hear it. And now look at Bernie. So that's, I mean, I just think it's ridiculous. It shows that there's a lack of organization, a lack of structure, a lack of direction in this entire thing. And it's just kind of, it just doesn't really give confidence for people to give their money to, right? If I'm going to give my money to somebody. Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, if I'm going to give my money to somebody, then I want to make sure that my money isn't going to get thrown away. And I have PTSD from the Sanders and even the AOC. I don't even think I actually gave her very much at all. But from those where people, we were all like traumatized because these people turn around and, you know, became absolutely part of the establishment, or always were. You're not going to, at this point in the game, you're not just going to freely give your money. And as you said, Pasta, he's not really talking. It doesn't seem like he's serious about this at all. And so what exactly are you doing? It really, especially with people who are so like naive about this.
Yeah. And look, he just even changed the Cornel West. He took the green out. He took the green out of his Cornel West logo there. Now it's like, you know, independent colors.
Now, it's not a bad thing, by the way, that he's running third party or that he's running independent. Overall, he's not running as a Democrat.
What's the
good
reason?
Thing. Same with Kennedy.
What's the reasons, fam? What's the reasons? Because it's going to make you look more fucking indecisive than anything. Had you just come out in the beginning one way and that's it. And let me tell you something. You can say what you want about Nick Brana. You might not like him at all. You might think he's a donkey. He had better political instincts than the donkeys who were running his campaign at the Green Party. He had a populist message out of the gate. As soon as the Green Party got him, that part of the Green Party, right, that I guess that Chris Hedges or whatever, they started removing all the populist messages, and there was no existential threats to Cornel West. And a lot of people in the United States right now, a lot of independent people, a lot of conservative-leaning people, even some left-leaning people are concerned about the existential threats out there, right? He doesn't even talk about them. He doesn't even know about. I don't even know if you told Cornel West, hey, what's a CBDC? He might not even know what the fuck it is right now. That's a problem. That is a problem. And you're not going to win anybody that way. What did fucking Kennedy do? Once again, the political way.
A lot of people don't know what that is.
Yeah, but
a lot of people don't know what a
now.
CBDC is.
But a lot of people do. And the Bitcoiners now.
Yeah, on the certain, but
now.
Certain sectors. I don't know. I think a lot of the time we are all speaking to an echo chamber. When it comes to CBDC, it's still a lot of. If I go out on the streets, I guarantee you that the majority of people won't know what a CBDC is. They really won't. They won't. That's not even the biggest thing. I agree with you that he is a very niche candidate. He's a very niche candidate, and some of the things we are asking of these candidates are very niche topics still, for the rest of the world. But I think if we can agree on certain topics that should be, primordial right now in the sphere of the United States, it would be the economy, clearly, foreign policy, that this money that's being pushed out, and the infringement upon the freedoms of American people, whether that's free speech, whether that's the invasion of privacy, those sorts of things. I think more people are aware of that. Medical issues like healthcare, also related to the way the COVID was handled, the vaccine mandates, and so I think those issues definitely. Immigration is definitely going to be a big issue on either end of the spectrum, and so those are the issues that I think are really big. But again, I do think that Cornel is definitely a candidate that appeals to a small sector of people, and he has good qualities, but he definitely has a lot of blind spots, a lot of areas where he's just not capable of being a candidate that is going to appeal to the masses, a candidate that is actually, he's a very smart man, and when you hear him speak, he's inspirational, and that's something that's undeniable. But he is an academic. He is an intellectual. He's somebody that I could see in a professor type of setting, which he has done for many years. He is not somebody that I see, managing day-to-day politics, because that's just not who he is. And he hasn't really taken the time to really surround himself with people who are. And it just screams disorganization. It screams lack of direction. And Jill Stein made a comment. We can pull that one up too.
Ooh, I didn't see this. And by the way, too, fam, as well, to piggyback on what you're saying, if you look at these candidates across the board, who's Cornel going to work with if he were to get elected? Who's he going to, what bridges is he going to build to get things to change in Washington, right? There's nothing there. There's nothing there. He's in his own echo chamber. And that's a shame, because you couldn't even change, if you've done things in the past that were wrong, if you said some stuff like that communism comment, you could say something and change that completely. And you don't have to be a pro-communist, but you can say, listen, I'm not a pro-communist. I'm not a communist myself, but I am not anti-communism. And that statement was probably a little bit out of line. Something like to that degree. It's just ridiculous.
So Jill Stein said, Stein and Baraka wish Dr. West well, affirm support for a strong Green campaign. Boston. Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka, previously advisors to the West campaign, today wish Cornel West well in his upcoming independent presidential campaign in the following joint statement. As colleagues who helped persuade Dr. West to pursue the Green nomination, we appreciate the good faith effort he has made over the past 4 months. Running solo, however, may better suit his long-standing role as a fiercely independent voice of moral authority. While we share Dr. West's formidable commitment to peace and justice, we are respectfully parting ways at this juncture, as we are committed to building an independent people-powered party, and scroll up, as an indispensable
make it bigger too.
Indispensable vehicle for challenging empire and oligarchy. Oops. You scroll up because up. Okay, here. An oligarchy for the long haul. In light of Dr. West's decision to run independently, we are in discussion with several former candidates about potentially entering the race to carry the Green Party's anti-war, pro-worker, climate emergency agenda into this critical election. with the Democratic Party now leading the charge for war and censorship, betraying workers on the rail strike and dropping the $15 minimum wage, outdoing Trump in new fossil fuel projects on public lands, and voluntarily resuming crushing student debt payments when people are barely scraping by paycheck to paycheck. For all these reasons and more, we need an independent, corporate-free People's Party more than ever. In deciding to run as an independent, the West campaign leaves behind the ballot lines they would have had access to, as well as the guidance of experienced ballot access staff and Green volunteers familiar with the process in most of the 50 states. We expect this will be a formidable obstacle in the coming months. Though Dr. West won't be running with our team, he is offering an inspired, courageous example to voters and candidates alike. We believe he is making an immeasurable contribution to the 2024 election, and for that we are deeply grateful. Given our similar visions and agendas, we will continue to look for synergy on the road ahead. So this, to
What
me,
the
is just
fuck?
further
So
dividing
stupid.
people up into smaller and smaller factions of people. So you have now the Green people, you have the People's Party people, you have the Party of Socialism and Liberation candidate, or the PSL candidate, whatever candidate that is, I forget. You have this Green candidate, you have Cornel West, and you have Bobby Jr. And all of these candidates are just going to divide themselves up. Why? Because we can't find a candidate that is actually good, that's actually going to be able to unite everybody under some sort of umbrella. And honestly, that's what the United States needs, because you're not going to win. The United States is not ready for any sort of socialist candidate. They're just not going to do it right now at this juncture, because what is presented as socialism in the US is literally BS. It's neoliberalism. It's a bourgeois, a radical liberalism, but it is liberalism. It's not socialism. So that's why it gets vilified by Republicans so easily, because it's stupid. It's people like, AOC and all these idiots who call themselves, democratic socialists, who are not. They're just literally Democrats. That's it. And then you have the Green Party, that is pretty much Democratic Party light at this point. At least that faction, they don't really do anything except rebrand, like a lighter version of the liberal Democrats. They say they want better things, like Jill Stein just outlined all these things, but they don't really have a plan as to how to get it, and they don't really have a way to reach a broader spectrum of people. So they stay within the Green Party contingent. They have members within their own party that think differently than them. And they are against vaccine mandates. Members that are, have different points of views, but they're like split in the Green Party. Then you have the libertarians that are fighting all the time, and like there's one thing or the other, but they have a lot of ballot access, as Pasta was saying earlier. And then you have, of course, the Republicans. Now the Republicans, as we'll find out, as you guys know, have one thing that all of these people don't. They are able to unify and come together when it's most needed, and that's the strength in the Republican Party. They are able to come together and literally push through what they want, and they did so with McCarthy. This is something that the left contingents that I just mentioned, or the independents, cannot do. They fail to do. They're so disorganized. For all we can criticize them, the establishment and especially the Republican Party are extremely organized and extremely cohesive. So that is something to understand when you're talking about these different parties.
Well, let me say this much. It's funny because the Republicans say the same thing. They said the Democrats are come together when it comes to it, being in Congress
The
and whatnot.
establishment does.
Yeah, the establishment. Well, that's the whole thing, is that they don't have any independent-minded Democrats out there. They're all they've bent the knee. I mean, what we're going to talk about today, of them, vindicated. Jimmy was vindicated. We went to force to vote in D.C. And I said, you got less than 3 years and you got vindicated. Poor fucking Gerald Celente said, if we go into Afghanistan, we will lose. And he had to wait 20 years before he got his vindication, right? So it is kind of crazy. But, I mean, if there are any loose cannons going on, you'll see that's the Republicans. They'll have independent-minded people. There's a few of them that brought down that fucking house, and it's kind of amazing that they were able to do so. But I honestly do, like I said, at this point of the game going forward, the Cornel West is, I still don't understand what his whole point is, right? The PSL, it's such a small, tiny tiny. I mean, they were for lockdowns. They were for Gavin Newsom. They were just ridiculous. They're not socialist whatsoever. And, they're not a serious group. Nobody takes them serious whatsoever. And they just keep on losing any ground in any coalition building whatsoever. This whole group right now with the Cornel Westers, the PSL people, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. And we're going to show examples of how they are shooting themselves in the foot. So we'll see what it's like on Monday at that rally for RFK when he has his people out there. But Cornel West, a lot of people were saying he made this announcement this morning to try to pull some of the thunder away from that whole announcement that's coming. It's not going to work. It doesn't make a difference. Nobody's taking this guy. No normie is taking Cornel West as a serious candidate. And whether we like it or not, the normies are going to decide at the end of the day. Well, not really with the election system, right? It's the whoever's controlling that system is going to decide at the end of the day. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. The reason I haven't been talking about this so much, even though it gets a lot of attention and a lot of clicks, is because looking at this from Russia and having just been in Iran, it just looks ridiculous, honestly, by comparison. The American political sphere right now looks absolutely ridiculous. Joe Biden falls asleep. He is completely unable to lead. You have, the government shutdown. You have the Republicans being the anti-war party and enforcing the vote. You have everything is flipped around. And it's just now you're putting it all in the presidential election, and Trump's just making fun of Joe Biden. And it's hilarious to watch, but it's honestly really sad because as an American, this is our reality and nothing is getting done. And meanwhile, things are really bad. And one of my friends just showed me the health chart for the economy, and it's like this. And it's going to last until next year. And people are losing their jobs. People are getting massively laid off. This is happening now in the banking sector. This is really bad for the United States economy. Things are not doing well. And I say this as somebody who knows people in real estate, people who are in the banking sector, who are not political, who are just looking at all this stuff that's happening on the economic arena. And they're like, wow, this is really bad. This doesn't look good. And so now people have been saying this for a while, economists, but this is now the time when we were talking where it would happen, and it looks like it's right on forecast, right, as predicted, that this is happening. So brace yourselves for a terrible, probably a fall and winter, because there seems to be a lot of things happening on that sector, and with the elections coming up, it just almost I don't know, something's got to give with this.
And the funny thing is that nobody's talking about that. We're talking about BRICS or de-dollarization, how it can hurt the Americans other than Matt Gaetz. It's ridiculous that right now our best congressional member is Matt Gaetz out there. And by far. And it's got I said at the Rage Against the War Machine when I spoke, I said, thank you, Matt Gaetz, for bringing forth a resolution to try to defund and end this war in Ukraine. But don't think for 1 second, Matt Gaetz, that we're going to sit still and let you end a war in Kiev against Moscow and go start another war in Taiwan against Beijing. It's not going to happen. And that is a concern of mine. That's a concern of a lot of people in the independent media field, is that some of these conservatives, the right wing, the populist right, like the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, Matt Gaetz, will be okay with a war against China. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, and again, that's why you see these positions with some people like the RFKs are saying, hey, we're going to go after them economically. We're not going to have any war. We're going to compete with them again. So I'd like to see more of that rhetoric. But when it does come down to this de-dollarization situation with BRICS, nobody's talking about it. And it could be a serious cold winter, because that's the one thing that's supposedly keeping our dollar afloat. The fact that it's the global currency. BRICS is the opposite of that. That takes away from us being the global currency. And I don't give a shit. The MMTers can get mad at me and stuff. You're not going to print your way out of this shit. You're not going to print your way out of it. If it's a global freaking currency, scarcity means some stuff. And any country that has tried to do that, what you're talking about, has failed. So we have to get back somehow to making things, fixing things, get some type of production in here. So, fam, kudos to that whole set, that whole kind of comment that the dollar could fall and we can be in some serious trouble. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of things happening right now.